The first day of boot camp was supposed to be intimidating, but for Marcus Reed, it felt like walking into another battlefield. Not because of the drills, or the shouting sergeants, but because of the way 17 fresh recruits stared at him, smirked, and burst out laughing. He was older than the rest, mid-30s, hair peppered with gray, eyes that had already seen war, and instead of showing up sleek and sharp like the others, Marcus carried an invisible weight. A widowed single dad, he had left his little daughter, Lily, with his sister just so he could serve Agana because his country called, and because deep inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that he still had something left to give. But the younger recruits didn't see any of that. To them, he was just old man Reed, limping slightly from an old injury, moving slower, looking out of place. "Hey Grandpa, you lost your way to the retirement home?" One sneered. Another chimed in, "Hope you brought your cane for the obstacle course." Laughter exploded, 17 voices against one. Marcus didn't flinch. He'd been laughed at before, underestimated before. His late wife used to say, "Strength isn't in your muscles, Marcus, it's in your silence." So he kept quiet, carried on, and let their words bounce off him like bullets hitting armor. But the truth was inside. It hurt. He already felt guilty for leaving his daughter. He already doubted himself. And their laughter carved deeper into the fear that maybe he didn't belong here anymore. The days that followed weren't any easier. The recruits raced past him during drills, mocking his pace. They whispered at night, wondering why a single dad would abandon his kid just to prove something. Some even made jokes about how his daughter must be embarrassed to have a washed-up soldier for a dad. Marcus never fought back, he simply endured. But what none of them knew was the story inked across his chest and the one piece of him he kept hidden beneath his uniform. Everything changed one sweltering afternoon during training. The female commander, Captain Elena Torres, gathered the recruits for a grueling endurance drill. The sun scorched down, and sweat soaked through every layer of clothing. Marcus pushed himself past the pain, determined not to be the first to collapse. At one point, exhaustion got the better of him. He pulled off his damp shirt, revealing the tattoo sprawled over his chest and shoulder. The laughter that had always followed him suddenly fell silent. Captain Torres froze, her sharp eyes widening. The tattoo wasn't just ink, it was a detailed emblem of a fallen unit, one she recognized instantly. Below it, words etched in memory, "For those who didn't come home." The young recruits didn't understand, but Torres did. She stepped forward, her voice steady but laced with respect. "Where did you serve, Reed?" Marcus met her gaze, breathing hard, sweat dripping down his brow. "Kandahar. 2010. My unit didn't make it back. I was the only one left." A heavy silence fell. The recruits who had laughed now stared at the ground, ashamed. Captain Torres, who rarely showed emotion, saluted him, a gesture that carried more weight than 1,000 apologies. From that day forward, everything shifted. The recruits no longer saw Marcus as an old man out of place. They saw him as someone who had already walked through fire and survived. Someone who carried scars so they didn't have to. And slowly, the same voices that once mocked him began to ask him for guidance. Marcus became a mentor without even trying. He taught them not just about drills and tactics, but about resiliency, how to push when your body screams to quit, how to keep moving when grief feels like it's chained to your legs, and how to lead with honor instead of ego. But the hardest moment came one night when a recruit asked him, "Why did you come back? After all you've been through, a broken bar, why enlist again?" Marcus looked down at the small locket he always wore, a photo of Lily inside. His voice cracked as he answered, "Because one day, my daughter will grow up, and I want her to know that her father never stopped fighting, and not for glory, not for medals, but for something bigger than himself, for her future." The recruits never mocked him again. In fact, many admitted he became the reason they pushed harder, the reason they didn't quit when training broke them down. By graduation day, Marcus stood not as the outcast but as the heart of the unit, and when Captain Torres handed him his recognition, she whispered so only he could hear, "You didn't just prove yourself, Reed, you reminded us all what a soldier really is." When he finally returned home, Lily ran into his arms, and he held her tight. For the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel like he had to prove anything anymore. Because true strength isn't in who laughs the loudest, runs the fastest, or looks the youngest. True strength is in carrying scars with dignity, in loving deeply despite loss, and in standing tall no matter who doubts you.